Okay, so this week it happened again. I heard something. It's happening almost every week now, and I really love that. Where I hear something or experience something or read something that just hits exactly what I started Bring Connection back for. It's like in such alignment with or encapsulates like what I think is so important about people trying these games, or like the very value in it, you know? So this time it was a statement by Jordan Harbinger. And I love how, you know, every time these come up, I'm sharing them because it always hits it from another angle, like just a slightly different variation of what the value here is to me, what this is for, what this is all about. And so, yeah, maybe it fleshes that out more. So I love that. But he said action in suffering. And actually, I think he wrote an entire article about this, but I heard him speaking about it on a podcast. And yeah, I loved it, and it was right on the money. It was like, yep, action. This is what these games are about, is action. And you know, I can see immediately, you know, when I first heard the statement, how this can really apply and be true in this outer world kind of suffering too. Like, okay, if someone else outside of you is suffering, you know, taking action, or if there's suffering going on in the world, taking action is what helps end that, you know, like reaching out your hand, lending a helping hand. That makes sense. And that was one part of him, of his statement, you know, of his little action in suffering kind of quote or, you know, assertion. But the other part that I also felt was really beautiful is, and important, was the internal suffering, the suffering that you experience in yourself. That can get really heavy because you get bogged down in it and you get kind of stuck, and you don't know. It seems like, I don't know how to end this, you know, and that action was key for ending that too and stopping the suffering. He gave a lot of different examples that he, you know, had to support as evidence in his life, but also like things that he observed with others. Yeah, that's the part that I feel like is important too, because even in our inner world, action is what ends suffering. And suffering, okay, it's a strong word. Of course, you know, there may be people that are, there are certain to be people that, you know, are in a real state of conflict, and in a real state of suffering because they need some more connection, and the connection is just like really dead, and they're feeling, you know, just not alive and enlivened by life as they could, and or they're in a state of conflict with their partner, or they're really in a state of suffering with their child and their relationship with their child. So of course there could be reasons of actual suffering, or of classic suffering, because all suffering is actual suffering, even the small stuff, you know, but, you know, in a state of classic kind of suffering, that want to do these games or need these games to really help bring some connection back and get things flowing again. But there's also this small element of suffering that's more like stuckness, just stuckness, you know, and it can be in little tiny ways, like just blockages of flow that are small, just like, yeah, sure, I could use some more playfulness in my life. I'm not suffering, but like, of course I would like some, or, you know, some areas could definitely be opened up to some more connection, or I don't even know if they can or not, but like, let me see, let's unblock what we can unblock, and expand what we can expand, because that's definitely, you know, part of it, part of the, you know, the suffering, or stuckness, you know, when you loosen that up and when you get the flow going, things expand, things release, things, you know, grow. So, you know, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, even if suffering isn't the word you would have used for what draws you to the games, like, it still makes sense. It's the emphasis is on the action and how it gets things flowing, how it relieves the stuckness, and I feel like exactly because that is what I observed. That is what got me here. I experienced it in my own life when, I loved introspective kind of stuff and personal growth. I'm a total dork with personal growth, but what really sort of like put the icing on the cake and like made things really start snapping into place was when I didn't just contemplate and didn't just write things in journals and didn't just like have it be an introspective process, but when I also started giving myself active things to try and do. And they were kind of like dares at first. And it was, inconsequential stuff too, not just like, get up and do what you got to do today. I mean, of course, there's some importance in that too, but also, as I was trying to get unstuck in specific areas, just trying things or even just being playful. I didn't have to have any strategy at all. It could just be like, just make a goofy face with your kids, and like, wow, the effect that already has. So I felt it, I could really feel how that shifted my energy and my person. But also, if you don't already know this, it's like, I was and am still an aerial instructor, and for 20 years teaching people to do this physically challenging stuff with their bodies, stuff that they most likely had not really been doing, like when do you grab things with your feet or go upside down or, create some sort of dance move or skill or sequence or whatever, hanging from, something. These were new things. So we had to make new connections, new neural pathways. We had to like get their bodies doing things that their bodies weren't doing before. And so there would be times where they would be stuck. There would be times when, there would be suffering even, maybe physical pain, suffering, or just like, beating their head against the wall kind of suffering. And the way that we physically got them out of this wasn't just physically trying that over and over and over. Well, it certainly wasn't just contemplating it. I mean, visualization is a thing that athletes use, and it is super important, but it wasn't just that either. It wasn't just it was also trying it, but it also wasn't just trying the same move or thing that they were stuck on that they were trying to get. It was actually trying things that were a little bit different, a little bit off, like giving ourselves twists and challenges and experimenting with it, making it an actual experiment where you're trying something different. And twisting it so that if the thing that they were doing was in the going upside down thing, like shifting it so it wasn't an upside down thing anymore, and they were getting the same kind of idea, maybe it was similar in some ways, different in others, flipping it to the complete opposite, just so they feel what the opposite is, what not to do. And, so setting up these scenarios, giving challenges, that were almost game-like, to get to that place, to like exercise what needed to be exercised and like get to that unstuck place, just to shake things up, and to build some skills, but get them in action, and get them trying other things, trying not necessarily the one thing. And that made a big freaking difference. So then that was kind of a first level of aha, of course, and I told you in my own personal world, this was also simultaneously happening and like, changing things up and trying things, and making myself experience and do and be, definitely made me feel more alive when I was experimenting and trying different things in my experience. But then there was this other layer too that was also beautiful, because I started to see these things getting married together or blended. These people that were also just trying things physically, a lot of emotional stuff was coming up too, or just like, personal world stuff that was linked to, achieving with their body or trying something over and over again and not getting it, because there was also echoes and metaphors, me and the metaphors. I have a podcast, Life is a Metaphor. So if you haven't already checked that out, that's why I'm bubbling about the metaphors here. But yeah, so metaphorically, there were also things that were happening that, translated into their lives. When they were sitting here trying at this one experience or trying to physically get this thing, it was bringing up other things, bigger picture things in their life and their person, who they were. This is like mirroring something that I'm dealing with at my job right now too, and I'm just like stuck there too. Or, God, I think this is just me. This always happens to me. I always overthink something, or, whatever. So they were seeing that it was bringing up all this stuff inside of them too. That was deeper level stuff, not just like this one trick and this physical thing that they're trying to do. And man, it applied there too. Like taking action, doing stuff, getting this move finally, trying all the things physically, to just play with it, to get themselves experimenting with, challenges, limiting themselves on purpose. Like, can't do it this way, but you could do it this way, or try that, try this, or try to do it like this. Again, game style stuff, really shifted and made big differences in that personal world too, and ended some suffering there too, ended some stuckness, even if it was just a tiny bit of stuckness, and added playfulness, added smiles, made it less painstaking than feeling like, oh God, I'm such an overthinker. What am I going to do? Or, I've got this issue at work. How am I ever going to solve it? I'm so stuck. And then I don't want to have to hash out some deep level things about who I am and rework who I am as a person, and that's the kind of stuff that gets people just overwhelmed. And it wasn't like that. It was just playing. It was, we were doing games and shifts were happening, new realizations that they weren't even trying in that really hard efforting way to make, they were just coming. So it was beautiful. And I was just like, yeah, man, this is working for me. I'm seeing it work on the physical level. I'm seeing it happen, with this physical level really translating into deeper things that we didn't even expect with these people here too. And this is it. And we're having fun. And this is a game. And they're getting more playfulness just from being willing to try whatever crazy limitation I throw at them and that they're going to try next to try to get this one trick. But it's not even about that trick anymore, because we are just playing now, and it's inconsequential, so this is kind of how this all started coming together. And so I have very real experience with action and suffering. It is definitely something that I'm like, yes, that is it. That is exactly why I'm doing Bring Connection Back. That's what these games are for. And I can totally attest and give you all my examples of how that has worked. So that is why when I heard that, I was like, ooh, I get to share that now. It's all about, to me, it makes you feel alive. I think I've said this before, but I'm reemphasizing. It makes you feel like you're actually in the life and the living part of being a human. You are being, you're really doing, because stuck feels kind of not life flowing. Am I really alive? But then shaking that up however you can, especially in inconsequential ways, especially not just the get up and do what you have to do stuff. That is important. I already said that, but that is important. But the inconsequential stuff that is play, that's games, that's training, it's, that is what training, playing through something, doing it during inconsequential times when it doesn't necessarily count, is training, building skills, and playing like animals playing, to get better at fighting, or, to get more that rough and tumble stuff, to get stronger. It's like making these things happen, giving yourself challenges, experimenting, and feeling like you're just trying stuff. You're in the being and the doing part. It brings aliveness like you wouldn't believe. That is the biggest thing I noticed, was I feel more alive. I don't know if things are happening, and I haven't, and then I did know at a certain point, oh yeah, things are happening. Wow. Cause this is just showing up in my life. But at the moment, I didn't know. It was just more that it feels alive and it's fun, and I'm smiling, and I'm being more goofy moment to moment. If nothing else, just made me feel more like I was in the living part of my life. and not just like in the observing part or the dreaming part or the prepping part or even just the like I have to part. It was more like my choices, my experiments. I'm the boss, you know? So there was just like so much power in that to me. And that is totally what this like action ends suffering part is all about to me, or like element. It emphasizes the action to end the stuckness. It certainly has. It has ended so much suffering for me all the time. Maybe even too much. Honestly, like now whenever I do feel suffering, I have to admit this about myself, like I go to a plan and to like action way too soon, probably. I mean, it's, you know, on that line, I play with it all the time, but maybe I should let myself feel it more and stuff like that. But, cause it's just like so powerful to me now that I like jump right to it. So anyway, action and suffering. I definitely think it's, in such alignment with what we do at Bring Connection Back and bringconnectionback.com.